everybody, this is Tora, and I'm back with another episode of Outwise Insights, a podcast by freelance talent marketplace Outwise. Here we delve into the latest trends and topics in the world of business, technology, and the future of work. Our topic today is closing the talent gap, choosing the right platform for your business. And I'm thrilled to have Barry Matthews, CEO of Open Assembly and a leading expert in the future of work, join us. Barry is a passionate advocate for flexible, remote, and on-demand work, and he's dedicated to educating and inspiring employers on the benefits of using talent clouds as a critical part of their talent sourcing strategy. I'm so glad you can make it today, Barry. How are you? How's the UK feeling today?
Good, thank you. Yeah, I'm delighted to be here and joining you on what is a very important weekend for the UK because we're about to have the King's coronation tomorrow. So it's a big royal celebration this weekend.
Right. So you've had a lot of people from outside coming to the UK. I'm sure a lot of people are attending. Important people.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a big celebration like all over the country, and everyone's got their Union Jack flags out, and there's most of the local towns and villages have got something going on. So it does feel like a special occasion for us. It doesn't happen very often, of course, to have a new king or queen. So it's worth celebrating.
Nice, and I hope it's sunny, which doesn't happen very often either. No, I'm kidding.
No, and it's not, unfortunately.
Oh, of course not.
There's going to be. I think we'll need our umbrellas when we're out celebrating this weekend.
Oh yeah, okay. Anyway, Barry, I don't think my little introduction did you justice. So I'm just curious to know, how does one become so passionate and knowledgeable about talent platforms and the future of work? Do you want to tell me a bit more about yourself and just your experience and journey in this industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm chief exec of Open Assembly, and I'll speak a little bit more about Open Assembly in a bit. But I've been in the talent industry for, I suppose, the last 20 years or so. I did a lot of work in outsourcing, so helping big companies to be matched with the right suppliers to deliver services. So big teams of people. And then over the last 5 years or so, I've switched from outsourcing to focusing on out-tasking or out-skilling. So helping big companies match with the right individuals as opposed to teams using talent platforms. And I've always been, I got so excited when I first discovered how the gig economy could be used in big enterprises and how digital platforms could really, automatically link an enterprise looking for a skill with anybody's brain anywhere around the world with an internet connection and a laptop. So I've always been inspired by that, how technology could really help companies do things better, faster and cheaper. And so that led me to helping enterprises adopt talent cloud strategies and where I am today at Open Assembly.
Have you ever been a freelancer yourself, actually?
I have. I had a brief stint of freelancing, probably going back now sort of 15 years or so, working in like program management and the like. And I've always been quite entrepreneurial. So I've sort of been, I've run my own companies now 3 times. And so you could sort of argue that's almost like freelancing, but you end up paying yourself a salary. Mm-hmm. But I've definitely been my own boss. And I've always been pretty entrepreneurial. I see an idea, see a trend. I did this with outsourcing actually, but then with cloud computing, with robotic process automation, I sort of saw these big tech trends and thought, wow, there's a business there. I'm going to set one up. And that's what I've done with helping enterprises to access freelancers as well. I merged the company that I set up with Open Assembly a couple of years ago and created like a new consulting business, which has now become a technology business. So yes, I've always been entrepreneurial and worked a little bit as a freelancer in the past.
Okay, amazing. So you kind of know what it's like to be a freelancer as well. Cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I feel
exactly.
like we're seeing new talent platforms emerge every day, entering to specific talents that companies need. But I'm thinking, what's the backstory to the explosive growth of talent platforms? I mean, when did they really start to emerge in these numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. No, great question. So we track around 650 talent platforms in our database. So yes, there are a lot. And depending on how you count them, I know, other analysts and research firms will say there are over 1,000. So there are a lot out there. Now, they're not new concepts. They've been around for a long time. You think of like Top Coder was established more than 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it's not a new concept. But as technology has improved and internet connections have improved and mobile computing and just mobility has become such an important trend, people have like realized that to find work, you don't actually have to physically go to a location. You don't have to be based in Silicon Valley or in New York or in the city of London or wherever, and you can work remotely. And of course, COVID
Yeah,
played
of course.
an important role in amplifying that. Everybody realized, wow, I can actually work remotely using my laptop. And so that fuel injected the rise of talent platforms. And we saw such a huge increase, since COVID, of different niche areas of business saying, oh, well, actually, I could set up a platform for, I don't know, procurement experts, artificial intelligence experts, creative experts, design experts. So we found these niche specialist platforms coming up, and you found different geographies deciding that they would set up a platform in Spain or a platform in Morocco or a platform in Saudi Arabia. So you've got like specialist and geographical, and so it's created a really big market, which has attracted individuals, especially like younger individuals coming into the workforce, who want to take more responsibility or control for their careers. They don't just want to have one job, one employer. They want to do multiple or have multiple opportunities that they can pursue and work to their own work style. I love this word, work style, where you organize your work around your life and not your life around your work, not be a slave, to the salary. And I think that's very zeitgeisty. There's a lot more people wanting to take sort of control of how they earn money, where and when they work, not have to go to an office to work, but just to work from anywhere. And freelancing helps enable that. And big enterprises are realizing that they can then tap into freelance talent platforms and get skills they need on demand. So it's great for both sides. It's brilliant for the freelancer and can be brilliant for the enterprise if it's done properly. So, we're going to continue to see more and more of them. I'm sure. I can't imagine a scenario going forward where digital platforms and digital technology do not play an increasingly influential role in matching supply and demand for enterprises with the skills that they need anywhere around the world.
No, exactly. And you mentioned young people getting more into freelancing. I was speaking to, I don't remember exactly who it was, but he was mentioning that he's creating these courses for students to teach them how to go straight into freelancing after they finish studying, basically. So we're getting a lot more freelancers at a young age as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was recently on a board of a university in the UK, and it's something we talked about then. It's like, are we preparing our students for the right career path if we're not teaching them about all of the available options? If you just think you go into a proper job in quotes, you get a job as a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. Actually teaching students that there's so many different ways that you can earn money in the creator economy, the passion economy, the gig economy. And so teaching them how and all of the different options available is really important. So yeah, I think we definitely will see more and more younger people coming into the workforce and choosing to work in this way. I do think there's a balance to be had though, because I think I've got young adult children myself who've just gone into the workforce, and I think when you first start working and you meet your colleagues and you go for a coffee together or you go to the pub or you have the water cooler moments, I think they're really important in building up a person's sort of emotional maturity and the connection that they have with colleagues. And I think if that was just solely remote, done from your laptop, in a coffee shop or in your bedroom or whatever, I think you'd lose a lot of that connection that you have with other humans. And I think we have to be careful to get the right balance of in-person interactions as well as the flexibility of working, where you want and when you want.
No, super important, but I think it also depends on the person as well. Some people do not enjoy this type of interactions, and some people do.
Exactly.
Myself, I do love this type of interaction. I love working full-time at a company, but I could potentially see myself as a more senior individual going into freelancing later once I've had this experience. And these are a lot of the type of freelancers we have at Outwise. They're seniors. They've been working full-time in their younger years. And now they know everything. They've done that, been there, done that, and now they go into freelancing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is absolutely a trend we see. And I think it's it's great that as you get a bit more experienced and a bit older, you've got different ways of earning income. You could supplement your income by working as a freelancer while you might be employed. But if you might want to take early retirement from what you were doing before, and then work on a flexible basis into your old age, I certainly don't see myself, retiring anytime soon. And I think I would always carry on. And if I've got a skill and I know that I could add value somewhere, then you can carry on working on demand into your 70s or 80s if you wanted to, right? If you can still play an important role in adding value to a company, why not do that on a freelance basis? I see organizations where their employees retire. You think of they're losing 20, maybe 30 years of experience going out the door, where that person might want to continue to contribute on a freelance basis, remotely adding value here and there. And you think, well, of course, that makes perfect sense. Unilever are a great example of putting that model in place. And I think other organizations will start to do the same. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. More mature professionals choosing freelancing in increasing numbers.
I think it's absolutely great. Yeah. But so back to companies, do you think there are any misconceptions that companies might have about using talent platforms? And where do you think they stem from, if there are any?
Yes, absolutely. There are loads. And that's really what Open Assembly do. My company helps enterprises understand the way they can benefit from talent platforms, and that talent platforms are a really good option for certain things. For so many years now, big organizations, and it differs country by country, but big global organizations have thought, yes, we need to rely on external skills, but we're going to do that through an outsourcing agreement or through a staffing agency, a recruitment company. And they've not really looked at talent platforms. And when they understand the benefits of being able to source directly from a talent platform, then they're like, oh, wow, this is quicker. It's sometimes cheaper. We can get brilliant people on demand. It's, pay as you go. It's a variable cost model. There's so many benefits to it. But when they understand it, there's sort of this light bulb goes on. But they still then have quite a lot of obstacles to overcome. Because it's new, it's not a recognized way of working for some organizations. They then have to think about, well, what about security? What about systems access? How do I ship laptops? Do I give someone access to my systems through like a VDI? What should I do? So they have to think about that. What about intellectual property and confidentiality? How do we control that? What contracts do we have in place? What if things go wrong? What level of indemnity do I need to have in place? Are there insurance policies to protect for professional negligence or liability? And all of these things are super important. So we help our clients understand how to put all of those necessary measures in place to make using freelance talent platforms safe and secure and compliant, and all the things that legal teams and audit teams and risk teams at big companies, quite rightly have to take very, very seriously. But when you do that, then you can really unlock, the power of platform-based work. And as I say, it's quicker, faster, more productive, and can be incredibly beneficial for certain tasks. So, but that level of education within an enterprise, it's very immature.
Okay.
Companies are really only just starting to really understand how and when to use platforms.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So you did actually mention the benefits that a company has from using a talent platform. But what about specifically bringing in an expert, kind of creating this blended workforce? What can you add there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's such a, you're almost being naive as an organization if you think all of the best people work for you as an employee, right? So if you want to get diverse thinking, new ideas, innovation, then you need to look outside of the four walls of your organization. And of course, brilliant people exist on platforms. And so bringing people into your organization, either remotely or, virtually or in person, to contribute to projects and bring new ideas adds that richness and diversity. And it's so, relatively easy to do. And of course, big companies have been bringing in consultants for forever, right? They'll be bringing McKinsey or Accenture or IBM or whatever. This is no different, just bringing in a brilliant individual or team of individual that happens to be on a platform that might be from from Outvise, or it might be from Upwork or a Catalent or Expify or from wherever. coming in to add value as and when it's required, and then switching it off when it's not. Of course, it's such a sensible thing to do, and I think it can be really good culturally too,
Mm-hmm.
because you're introducing new ideas and new ways of working and new ways of thinking to your organization. So it's something I've always encouraged in my career. We do it now at Open Assembly. We work with freelancers every day. A lot of our team are freelancers, and you get such brilliant ways of thinking and doing things that you wouldn't get if you just relied on your employees.
No, I completely agree with you, Barry. I completely agree. So let's say, a company decides to hire freelancers. They decide to use a talent platform. What would you say are the biggest challenges that they might face when trying to find the right platform to work with?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because there are so many platforms, as
Yeah,
we
there are.
said. So
Which one do they
knowing
pick?
which one exactly, how do I pick? It's like it can be so confusing for a company to
Yeah.
think, yes, I want to work with I don't know, business consultant with a specific expertise, but where do I start? You can't just go to Google and do a search. And I think that has been one of the reasons the industry has not grown to the extent that many of us predicted it would so far, is because it's just so damn complex.
Mm-hmm.
And so having a resource where you can actually compare platforms, you can see having some that are accredited and have got a sort of quality seal of approval, that look after their community, do background checking, do testing, and that's super important. And we are, as in Open Assembly, creating that service. So we're creating we're calling it the gateway, but the single source for any enterprise looking to use talent platforms, where they can go and compare and contrast and can see which ones have got the best ratings and which ones have got how many freelancers and what commission rates they pay, etc. So we are creating that. We've started doing that, and we'll continue to roll that out. But it can be a real challenge for an enterprise to know which talent platform to use. And I would say there's for every really good one, there's probably a really bad one. So, it is fraught with difficulty. I'd say ask advice. Ask people, your colleagues, if they've worked with any before. Definitely look at reviews online. Do have a look at Open Assembly. Ask us questions, because we're always happy to provide our advice. And once you've started working with a good one, then stay with one that you trust. I would say don't just work with one platform, but once you've got a relationship with one, then keep that relationship going. But it's not an easy question to answer, because it does depend what skills you're looking for and how long and at what scale. And it's certainly been something, as I say, that's caused lots of confusion in the market. So having a place to go where you can compare and contrast, I think, will be really useful for companies.
No, I think definitely useful. I mean, especially if you're a company new to it, you need some sort of guide.
Yeah,
absolutely. But what do you? So you say once you found the platform you like, stick to it. But what if once you're starting out? Imagine, I don't know, you need a project manager. What do you recommend using multiple platforms to find this project manager? Because you get a lot of CVs, right? Like, which one's the best?
Yeah, exactly. It can be a bit I think definitely work with a credible platform that is is enterprise ready. Look for profiles. Find someone you like the look of, and then speak to them. Make sure that the platform will enable you to effectively interview them. Remotely, use video calls. Ask them lots of questions. Give them a test. And make sure that they're the right fit for your organization. Because just as it's like with consulting, if you put a consultant on site with a client and it's not the right cultural fit, you're not going to get a good outcome. And I think you have to think with that same mindset when you're hiring a freelancer. So you definitely have to check them out, make sure that they're good, and pretty quickly when you start working with someone whether they're really going to be the right fit for you. How you describe what you're looking for as a client is super important, and getting that sort of description of the service you're looking for right is really important when you're using a platform. So spending some time on making sure that you're writing down what you're looking for properly, and then asking the freelancer the right questions before you engage.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's super important. I mean, we're humans, and cultural fit and getting
Mm-hmm.
the right connection and relationship, even if you might not be on site together, if you're working virtually, even more important. So just taking your time to make sure that the person you're going to work with is the right fit for your organization is really important.
Super important. I agree. And so, Barry, we usually try to finish off with this question, the future. So how do you see the industry evolving over the next few years? What do you think the role of talent platforms will play in the future?
Sure. No, great question. I think I'm super excited about the future for talent platforms. Like I said earlier, there's no scenario in my mind where platforms don't play an increasingly important role in matching supply and demand. I think generative AI is going to play such a huge role in the way the industry develops, because like ChatGPT was only like launched on us in November, I think, last year,
Just
and
a
you
few
look at
months ago.
already all of
Everyone's already using
imagine.
it. It's amazing.
Exactly. Imagine what it's going to be like in 2 or 3 years' time. So
Yeah.
I think being able to be matched with the right person, dynamically using generative AI, that's going to be huge. I think we're going to see and I hope OpenAssembly will play a role in this, but I think we're going to see more cross-platform information. So if you're a freelancer, you're John Smith,
Mm-hmm.
you will have your background checking in the cloud, so any enterprise can see it. You'll be able to see star ratings across every platform you've ever worked with, to get so almost like a passport, for your digital passport for all of the work you've done, regardless of the platform that you work with, which is owned by John Smith and not owned by the platform. I think we're going to see more of that. We'll see more, enterprise-wide insurance policies and indemnities, and almost like a corporate safety net for an enterprise, regardless of which platform they use. I think blockchain will play a really important role in credentializing freelancers, so it becomes almost much safer for a company to work with a freelancer via a platform, regardless of which platform it is. So I think we'll see more and more of that cross-platform, cross-industry information being very specific to a freelancer, and it'll become much, much safer using technology. I think everything, the gateway we're building is integrating into different products. We use a deal for compliance, we're using insurance, we're using a cloud desk with EDI, we're using, a greenhouse for an ATS. You'll plug all of these different bits of software together to create a much safer and easier experience for the enterprise. So I think over time it will get easier and easier, and AI and blockchain and tech will play such an important role in making it as easy as possible for a company to hire a freelancer through a platform.
Cool. I really love what you said about the passport, because I think if not all the platforms, when we get new freelancers into our platform, we onboard them. We also, check their expertise. We qualify and make sure they know what they say they know. And I think this passport would just be great,
Yeah,
super
absolutely.
convenient.
And there are a couple of companies. Yeah, there are a couple of companies doing that type of thing at the moment. Velocity Networks is one of them. And yeah, I think it's just so needed, isn't it, by the industry? It would just, it would make it easier for companies to feel safe.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. Barry, anything else you want to add to this this conversation? Anything you want to finish off with? Something inspirational, perhaps?
I don't know about that. I said at the beginning, I'm passionate about the industry. I love the fact that there's talent is universal. It's everywhere around the world. It's in rural South Devon in England, where I am today, and it's in Mongolia, and it's in Nepal, and it's around Africa, and it's everywhere. And previously, opportunity has been restricted to big cities, London and Silicon Valley, New York, and wherever. And just the fact that now opportunity is everywhere, it's universal, it's global. We can get, we do some work with people on the autistic spectrum who don't want to leave their homes, and I just think that's brilliant. Or on the neurodiverse spectrum, they can find opportunity now, regardless of being on, not wanting to commute, or people who are less able physically or mentally and not able to get into workplaces, or not wanting to, and now being able to work from home and find opportunities using freelance project-based models. I love the fact that we can create this opportunity for the world to work to their own work style, using technology. And when technology can be used like that to make a difference to society, I think it's, it brings benefits for the enterprise, and it brings significant benefits to the individual. So I'm super excited at the future for the industry. So, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's been a
No,
pleasure.
thank you so much, Barry. Thank you so much for sharing all this knowledge. It's been an excellent discussion today, and a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for joining us on Outwise Insights. If you're looking to hire top freelance talent or find your next project, visit outwise.com.